Welcome to City Council meeting today, Tuesday, June 10th, 2025. I'm Councilmember Matt Murray. Mayor Harris is out of town and has asked that I act as Mayor Pro Tem today for today's meeting. We will first begin with the Pledge of Allegiance led by Casey Bowen. Followed by the Pledge of Allegiance, we'll have a prayer or thought given by John Cook.
Please stand. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Our Father in heaven, we're grateful to be able to come and be here this day as a community. We pray for our local leaders and those that are making decisions that they can do so with a clear mind and to be driven to do what is best for our community and for the support of those that live here. We're grateful for this beautiful city, for this state that we live in, or for this beautiful country, and we pray that those who are leading us and guiding us can do so with a clear mind and that they can be mindful of the impacts of their decisions and choices. We're so grateful again for this community we live in Bountiful City. We say these things in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Thank you. Right now, we will open up for public comment. One thing I'll point out is if you've come for the public hearing on the proposed Power Department amendment or transfer, or the public hearing on the proposed budget of water and power rates, those public hearings will be held later in this meeting. The time now is for members of the public to express their opinion or talk about any other topics around the city. Now would be your time to do so. We ask that you come forward, state your name, where you live, and you'll have 2 minutes to speak.
My name is Casey Bowen. I'm one of the residents of the Bountiful City. As a matter of fact, I'm in the Bountiful City Neighborhood Emergency Preparedness Council that we do work for all of you and all of the city. There are 14 of us members. We operate under Chief Beeler and Lieutenant Smith in the police department. I've been involved for about 14 years. And I don't believe we've ever come before the full council and talked about things we do and what's going on. Bountiful is divided into 12 districts, and each of those districts kind of follows a LDS boundaries. But so we interface and communicate with all of those districts in order to prepare them for emergencies and to help them. Examples would be the gun range fire, where we helped evacuate people out. Windstorms, where our council took calls for the power company and managed to help people that were in need and distress during that. We also do a CERT program, and we're recognized as one of the best community emergency response training programs in the state. We do those twice a year, and we also do emergency preparedness. Our emergency preparedness group is recognized as one of the best ones in the state as well. And Mayor Kendall Harris has taken the CERT class from us. We also present emergency preparedness seminars to the community twice a year. And we recently conducted the Great Utah Shakeout, in which we communicated with all 12 districts, and many of those districts did exercises where they communicated with everybody, with all of the people in their areas, even down to a neighborhood house-by-house thing. One of the reasons why I'm here tonight is Bountiful City let me do a emergency radio technician license class downstairs. And we had great success there, and I ran out before I finished my time, but I wanted to thank the city for allowing me to speak before you and let you know that there is a Davis County Amateur Radio Emergency Field Day coming up 26th and 27th of this month. We wanted to try and get the council to do an emergency radio proclamation, but I heard you don't do that, and it's a smart thing. Thank you for your time.
Seeing there's no additional comments, we will close that section and move to a motion. We'll now consider the approval of the minutes of our previous meetings held on May 27th, 2025. Are there any questions or corrections?
Mayor Pro Tem, I make a motion to approve the minutes.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. That motion passes. Now it is time for council reports. Councilmember Price Hewish, we'll start with you.
Great, thank you. I'm excited, and I'm going to hold off on mentioning anything with the BCYC because our advisor, John Cook, is here, and I do want to publicly recognize him. He is a wonderful leader and mentor and example to the kids on the BCYC. I also just would like to say that I had the opportunity to speak with Alan Johnson today about our outlook, our power outlook for the summer. And as many of you know, the summer is a high peak utilization time period. And I know a couple of our power department staff members are here tonight, and he wanted to pass on the message that through utilization of our own power resources, our resource contracts and planning ahead, we're going to have enough power to meet our needs throughout the summer through this high peak utilization time period. That's because we have hot weather and lots of people are running their air conditioners. So I just want to thank him and the power department for this long-term planning. And it is not just long-term planning from the last year, it's long-term planning for decades and many plans that just are rolling forward to keep us comfortable and with power continuously. He also wanted to mention that squirrels continue to be the biggest culprit of power outages, unexpected power outages throughout the city. So, hats off, not really to the squirrels for their efforts in keeping our linemen busy. As far as, I just want to mention a few things that are coming up and are already happening throughout the summer in the city. We have food trucks happening down at Bountiful Town Square every Tuesday and Friday, and that is just super fun. I've been down there a few times already, and it is a wonderful place to kind of experience and feel community in our city. Farmers Market is getting ready to kick off next week. So many wonderful things, concerts in the park, also starting next week. And I want to recognize the Rotary for the efforts that they are putting forward this week on the Coats for Kids event. It is just a monumental thing that they do every year, and it's with the support of the city. We put in a lot of resources as well and support that on our city property and with our public safety, and it is an amazing event. And so I hope everybody will avail themselves of going and enjoying Coats for Kids. And I also do not want to pass on my time, and I have taken a little bit of time without recognizing our dear friend, and I will just leave it at that, a dear friend of probably almost everybody in this room, Mayor Joe Johnson, who passed away. He was a mentor and just a joyful example of how to live life and contribute to your community. And I really love him and his wife, LaVon, and their entire family. So I wanted to recognize the great man, Joe Johnson. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Child.
Yes, thank you. I serve with the Bountiful Community Service Council, which is amazing to me. It is so much fun. It is a gathering of representatives from many of the service groups in Bountiful. I get to hear firsthand what's happening, the time and effort people are putting into things. Thank you, Casey, Bowen, and your emergency preparedness committee for the incredible ability to sleep well at night, because I know what you guys are doing and the volunteer hours you're putting in conjunction with our public safety officials. And I'm truly amazed at all that you do. Thank you. We recently had the Chalk Art Festival put on by the Joy Foundation. If you made it down to Main Street, it was a lot of fun. It was such great community participation, a great, vibrant celebration in our community. The car show is this weekend, as Council Member Price Hewish said, and that's a wonderful community event as well. They did tell me that the funds that they raise come from the food that they sell there. So get a lot of corn dogs, buy often. The Main Street merchants are putting on several events this summer, including a Where's Waldo activity. So that will be a fun way to get kids down on Main Street and going to the different stores. Again, just grateful for all in our community who serve, who give their time to make this into a true, what we're looking for in small town America. So, thank you.
Councilmember Bradshaw.
Thank you. I too would like to echo the thanks we all owe Mayor Joe for the influence he's had on each of us in our city. I serve on the board for the South Davis Recreation District. That was an organization that without his championing our community and the 5 South Davis cities would not have, and he made himself available number of times when I had questions about the why of certain organizational principles to help give me some insight and historical background, and I appreciated that he would continue to give his time in that way, so we will miss him. On a lighter note, I want to note that my favorite chalk art drawing this year was the green jello. It looks incredibly realistic, and if you haven't found it, it's in front of the Bountiful Tabernacle. So check it out before it gets rained on or hosed off. Second, I wanted to just note there's a lot of things we shout out here during our council reports. Often there are some of the big things that are happening. I wanted to give a shout out and a kudos to our streets director, Charles Benson. I had a resident reach out over the weekend that was worried they were notified there was going to be a street project closure of their street, and their flight was canceled, and they had cars on the street and were in a panic. Was able to reach out to Charles, and he switched the schedule around so that they could get their flight rescheduled, get home, get the cars moved, and still accomplish what they needed to do. And it's some of those little things that make living in Bountiful great, that you can reach out, get quick answers, and still get streets paved on time. So thank you to our streets department. Thank you to Charles for accommodating. If you're down on Main Street for any of our events this summer, please note that the Bountiful Davis Arts Center has new cool banners. Thank you to the city staff that helped them figure out what they needed to do to get those banners up. But the new banners forecast the upcoming art shows, so you can more easily see as you're out and about on Main Street what's coming up. There's new art shows that happen just about every other month, classes for kids, for adults. It's a great summer activity and potentially a great date night activity or a way to meet new friends to check out those classes. And those banners will be rotating and be refreshed so that you can have a quick view as you're out and about. And then finally, as mentioned, South Davis Recreation District Board met for several hours last night. One of our residents was there for those 3 hours as well. We had some robust discussions I just want to keep everyone in the loop on, involving some future things that may come up. We've worked hard to get the rec district's budget into a much better financial position than it has been in the past few years. Tyson's not here, but Tyson and Galen have been a big part of helping do that from a staff perspective. We've managed to really get them back on a better footing and really reduce deficits. So I'm happy to give a good report of the direction that we're heading. There still are some challenges, and some of those are the fact that it's an aging facility, and if, thousands of people used your locker rooms for 18 years, they might look a little tired as well. And so those are some of the things that the Rec District Board is currently discussing, how we handle some of those needed maintenance things. And so we had a lively, robust 3-hour discussion that was not conclusive, but will be ongoing about potential bonding for some of those needs, just for remodel and refresh. There are always some ideas about expansion, and those are also being thoughtfully discussed, and school district partners and things like that. And then how we do that with also just keeping in mind that progress we've made on ensuring financial stability. The Recreation District offers something unique to our community, to have this gathering place that promotes wellness and health and life-saving skills like swimming, no matter your age group. So I think it's an important part of our community, and it's also important that the board be looking at ways to ensure that that resource is thoughtfully managed, so that it's respectful of all of the property taxpayers that help pay for it, but also that we protect the investment and the asset that we have made into those resources. So expect to probably hear more, about how to handle some of those bigger ticket needs from, what happens when you actively use and actively love a facility for nearly 20 years. There is also a kind of a high note, the bonds that built that facility will be rotating off and retiring in January of '26. So that does open up some of these discussions about what and how we might look at resources for that facility going forward. And if you
Thank
want to
you.
go deeper on the 3-hour
No,
meeting,
you're
I
good.
can.
We don't need a 3-hour update. I failed to mention our prayers and thoughts are still with Council Member Higginson, who is still working on getting his strength back, and we look forward to having him join us again soon. Also, with the groups that I'm with, the Bountiful History Museum is looking for volunteers. They would like to extend their hours of operation, and in order to do so, they need more volunteers to come down and share their enthusiasm for history, and those that have been in Bountiful a long time and can connect the dots. It's a fun group to sit with and listen to the stuff that they remember and that they volunteer to do every week. I'm also on the Davis County mosquito abatement. I don't talk about that enough, but there is a group that is passionate about killing mosquitoes, and we do have access on their website. If you have an event coming up in your neighborhood and you need assistance in getting rid of mosquitoes, you can go onto their website, put in your address and the date and time of your event, and they will come out and help prepare, spray your neighborhood basically for mosquitoes. And so that is at no cost to you as a taxpayer. It's you do that through your property tax. And then just again, it's amazing to look at the reach that Mayor Joe Johnson has had on each of us. I would not be sitting here if it wasn't for a bullying session with him and Phil Olson, the baseball coach, telling me that one day I need to run for city council. And when I decided to put my name into the campaign, he gave me 2.5 hours of his time to teach me some of the things that he learned, and I really will always appreciate that time I got to hang out with Joe for a little bit. And it's it'll be good to see, I think he called himself Johnson's Army when he would run for mayor again, and it'll be neat to see a lot of his family come in town that I haven't seen for a long time. So our prayers are with that family. So with that, we will open up to an update from our Bountiful Youth Committee and their advisor, John Cook.
All right, thank you. My name is John Cook. I'm an advisor for the BCYC. We decided it was fitting that I address you guys today, as it's kind of the first month of our new term. But before going into new term, I just wanted to kind of review the ending of our year. We finished off with a Stomp on Main, and just wanted to thank the city and everyone who helped contribute to that. It was a lot of fun for the youth. We had over 170 kids who showed up, so it was a really positive event, and I think they enjoyed it a lot. In terms of impact, what I've added up, which I'm sure is not a full sum of hours, but we spent over, as a committee, over 850 hours spent on BCYC events and different things. And so it's a lot of time that our youth are engaged in good things with our community. So it's really awesome. In terms of our new term, we have 59 members, over 9 schools, 18 seniors, 15 juniors, 12 sophomores, and 14 freshmen, which is amazing because last year we had 4. So huge jump in the freshman class, which is awesome. We have restructured the way that we're doing committees in BCYC. So we have set up 4 committees that everyone will break up and make them part of. So there's youth-led events. So this is supporting anything like the Stomp or anything that's really driven by the youth. Community support, things like the Chalk Art Festival. Our service committee, you could think of our graffiti cleanups or Kimball Mill cleanup. And then engagement, which is where we're looking at the youth being socially involved with each other or having guest speakers come in and talk to them. So we'll have these 4 committees, and the main purpose here is really from our interviews that we had with youth was that they didn't feel like they had as much decision-making and input in our events, and so this is really putting it back onto our whole committee and allowing them to take part in the planning. So I think it should be really awesome. In terms of what's going on, so we just had our first kickoff meeting last week. We did a speed networking activity where the kids got to spend 60 seconds, introduce themselves, and would have to answer kind of a silly question. So they got to do that for 30 minutes, and then we broke out into our committees and kind of established those for the first time. They also took part in helping with some of the Chalk Art Festival. We had 28 youth who signed up to volunteer there. And in terms of what's coming next, we are volunteering at the food pantry next week. We'll take 14 youth with us to do that. Handcart Days is coming up, so we're planning for that. And we are working on getting our sweatshirts and t-shirts ordered. We have to design the shirts first, so that always seems to be a challenge, but we're working on that. And then we'll spend probably the rest of June, July really building out the rest of our schedule. Any questions for the BCYC?
Any questions?
Thank you for all you do.
Yeah, thank you.
Yes, thank you. That stomp was awesome. It was neat to stop by and see that the youth had created a safe spot, a safe place for a lot of kids to come and dance. There were some that I probably wouldn't have been so comfortable dancing at a high school stomp, but the way that they designed it, the way they set it up, it was awesome. I think everyone was able to feel safe and letting loose on their dance skills. So it was awesome. Thank you. All right. We'll now consider approval of expenditures greater than $1,000 paid May 21st, 28th, and June 4th, 2025, and the April 2025 expense report. Are there any questions?
Do we need to do those as separate motions?
Do we need to do those as separate motions?
Okay,
No.
then, Mayor Pro Tem, I would like to make a motion that we approve the expenditures greater than $1,000 paid on May 21st, 28th, and June 4th, and the April 2025 expense report.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? No. That'll be an interesting question to ask if everyone says aye. So, all right. We'll now consider the approval of the proposed lot line adjustment, and we'll turn the time over to Dan Morgan from the Planning Department to present this item.
Good evening. I'm bringing before you a lot line adjustment at 921 and 965 Barton Court. Barton Court is at sorry. I believe it's 1525 East. Both properties are located in the R3 single-family zone. All the details are outlined on page 37 and 38 of the packet. If you have no specific questions about any of those details, I will go ahead and forward a recommendation. Are there any questions? Okay. Staff recommends that the City Council approve the proposed lot line adjustment with the following conditions of approval. Prepare the necessary final documents, which is the plat or legal description and deeds, to the satisfaction of the city engineer, making any necessary corrections identified during the review process. Provide a current title report for both lots. Record a boundary establishment with the Davis County to clean up the legal description for lots 507 and 508, which removes the lot line going through the dwelling. The Wheeler property, lot 509, shall have a minimum lot size of 11,000 square feet, and the Heaton property, which is lots 507 and 508, shall have a minimum lot size which is more than 0.132 acres.
Are there any questions from the council?
Mayor Pro Tem, I don't have any questions. I mean, it seems to clear up a weird issue that has existed for a while and ensures that both lots are either hitting our minimum lot size or are reducing their level of non-compliance with the lot size. So I'd be happy to make a motion to approve with the staff recommendations being met.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
The motion carries. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We'll now consider the approval of the proposal for paving and turn some time over to our city engineer, Lloyd Cheney.
Thank you. The street department budget for FY '25 includes, or has included over the last few years, a small reconstruction project in downtown in our older areas of town. This year's budget included a project on 200 East from basically 300 North to 500 South. We've been busy over there replacing the water line in anticipation of this project. Bountiful Irrigation has also replaced their system in this street. We were very pleased with the attendance at our bid opening. We had 6 companies that submitted proposals, and many of those names were companies that we have used for these projects in the past. The low bidder was Black Forest Paving. You may remember a month or so ago that the council awarded the overlay contract for projects on 500 South and also on 1800 South to Black Forest. In addition to doing overlay projects, they have done a couple of reconstruction projects over the years, and staff's very comfortable working with them. They know what's expected and how we approach the projects, and we're looking forward to another great experience with them. As you can see from the bid results, we got some favorable pricing. The engineer's estimate was, quite a bit higher than what their bid was. We'd be very happy if the engineer's estimate were to come in about 3rd place, but we'll take second on this one. That's close enough. But it's the staff's recommendation that the council award this contract to Black Forest Paving at the unit prices outlined in their proposal.
Are there any questions or comments from the council?
I have a question, Mayor Pro Tem. And Lloyd, this is just kind of more of a general interest question. I've noted the ongoing construction on 200 East. It looks like it's going well, and the water projects are nearly done. But I know this is a very necessary project for an older part of town, but obviously construction is hard on a neighborhood and a street. So any idea when they'll be done and putting this asphalt back on 200 East?
We haven't discussed a specific timeline for them. They are under the gun to get the 5th South paving done by the end of the month, so their efforts will be focused there for sure, and that's okay because it takes a couple of weeks to kind of get the paperwork sorted out. They do have till the end of the year to do the other overlay project on 1800 South, and I would anticipate that they will be working these two projects pretty much for the remainder of the construction season to get it done.
Okay, so the anticipation then is that the 200 will have its shiny new asphalt on before hopefully the snow flies.
Yes. Before you have turkey on your fork.
All right, well, I'm sure that neighborhood will be looking forward to that. The end of the dust of the construction. I'm happy to make a motion to approve the paving bid if there are no other questions.
Any other questions? Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. That motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. We will now turn the time over to Galen Rasmussen to give us background about the amendment of the budget transfer amount from the Light and Power Fund to the General Fund. Just a reminder, there are 3 separate public hearings that we will run tonight. The first one will be, we'll go through this general fund, and then we'll open it up for comment regarding the amendment, and then we'll have a second public hearing for anyone who wants to have, make comments on the proposed transfer of the Light and Power Fund to the general fund. And then we'll have a third public hearing. This will be for anyone who wants to talk about the proposed budget and rate increase for water and power. We will not be voting, just for everyone to know, we will not be voting on these items tonight. This is a public comment, a public hearing section. We will be having a second part of the hearing next council meeting, and then follow that with voting on the budget then. So, Galen, with that, we'll turn the first one over to you.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem and members of the council. Tonight, as was mentioned, we have 3 separate public hearings, and I have 2 separate PowerPoint presentations. So the first one will cover the first 2 items, items 9 and 10, that are enterprise fund transfer related. As was mentioned tonight, we'll hold public hearings on, first off, for the first item, item 9, to consider an amendment to the existing budget that is for the transfer for the Power Fund to the General Fund that was adopted last year, considering an amendment of that at this point. Just a little brief overview of what the administrative transfer is. It is reimbursement to the general fund for services that the general fund departments do for our enterprise fund operations. So that includes our payroll that we do for those employees that are in those funds, the accounting and budgeting, information technology, legal insurance work, engineering and planning, all those services that are listed there. And as far as how that balances out, on the left-hand side is the listing of the budgets for each of the funds that are benefited by those services, and that totals about $1.7 million. And on the right-hand side are the departments that provide those services, all in balances between those two. So what we'd like to do is go over now just a little bit of, oops, I need to back up one slide. If I get the mouse to move here. Just a little bit of an overview on that transfer. What was originally adopted was $3,072,000 and change, and now what we're asking for an amendment on is $3,222,651. The percentages of the expenses for the Light and Power Fund are presented, and with the amendment, it's 8.1% of their expenses. Now, looking at that transfer and the amendment for it, the transfer that was adopted last year that we're asking for the amendment was based on 10% of metered sales for the Power Fund. And these funds go for things in the general fund that are funded for entities that receive services, whether they're tax-paying entities or not. And those are services such as police and fire and street maintenance and snow plowing. And it allows for non-property taxpayers, and these would be not-for-profit entities and others that may not pay taxes that do receive services to help fund those services. And that keeps the taxes low in Bountiful by having this transfer. And if we didn't have that, there would be a significant increase in the property tax that would be necessary so that we would be able to operate and provide those services. And again, with this amendment, it represents 8.1% of the total budgeted expenses of the Light and Power Fund. And you can look at it a different way in being a dividend back to taxpayers for the investments that were made in the Light and Power Fund from many years ago. So with that, unless there's any questions from the council, we can open the public comment period. Mayor Pro Tem.
Okay, thank you. So we'll now open the first of the 3 public hearings in this meeting. For anyone who would like to speak to the proposed amendment, you may now come up to the microphone. Please state your name and where you live.
Dr. Ronald Mortensen, PhD, and I live in Bountiful. Year after year, we're told that the transfer from the Light and Power Fund, quote, is a means for reimbursement of the general fund for services provided to non-property tax-paying groups such as a non-profit organization, churches, and governmental entities, end quote. So I'd appreciate it if the city would provide us with the total amount of payments made to the power company each year by these non-property tax-paying entities, and then answer the following questions. Is the $3 million reimbursement made totally by these entities on top of the payments that they make for electricity that they actually used and are billed for? Do the non-property taxpayers pay a special non-property tax payer rate in order to create the total excess revenue needed to cover the $3 million transfer? And if not, what rate do they pay? Do they pay the residential or commercial rate? And 3, if the non-tax property tax-paying entities don't cover the $3 million transfer, doesn't that mean that all of the customers are helping fund it? So I'd appreciate getting these questions sometime, maybe even answered in writing, but I know you don't have time maybe tonight to do it, and then having them posted to the city website just to answer the questions, and they're frequently asked questions about the transfer. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, with no further comments, we will turn the time over to the Galen to talk about the second.
Okay, thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. This would open a public hearing on the proposed transfer for our fiscal year 2026 budget that is starting July 1st of this year and closes on June 30th, 2026. Again, just looking at that same graphic, but for the upcoming fiscal year. This gives a picture of what is being requested there. $3,164,000 and about 7.2% of the expenses of the Power Fund. And then this is kind of a listing of a history from 1999-2000 fiscal year forward of what was transferred from the Power Fund to the General Fund, and in terms of millions. And it has represented a 10% transfer from about fiscal year 2008 forward. And then there's a certain percentage of expenses from a point forward. That's 7.2 in this particular case. So that's just a little bit of a presentation for the public's use. Again, just to reiterate, this is the same slide, but just updated for the fiscal year 26 transfer. Again, 10% of meter sales, just as it's been in the past, funding the same items we've discussed, and it represents 7.2% of the budgeted expenses for the Light and Power Fund for the 2026 fiscal year. And at this point, would Mayor Pro Tem, unless there's questions, open that public hearing again.
Thank you. We'll now open up the second of the 3 public hearings in this meeting. For anyone who would like to speak to the proposed transfer from the Power Department to the General Fund, you may come to the microphone and please state your name and where you live.
Dr. Ronald Mortensen, PhD, still from Bountiful. Year after year, when city officials explain the transfer from the Light and Power Company, we are told, quote, "If city utility services were provided by private utility customers, these dividends would instead be paid to investor owners. Because Bountiful taxpayers are investor owners, these dividends are used to offset what would otherwise be a significant increase in property taxes." And this applies also to the next one, so I won't come back for public comment on item 11. But so here are several questions. Rocky Mountain Power pays property taxes on the real and personal property it owns, including such things as power plants, transmission lines, and other infrastructure. It also pays corporate income tax, and it pays dividends. Given that Bountiful Utah Power is exempt from all of these taxes, why are its rates from 7% higher in the summer to 21% higher in the winter than Rocky Mountain Power rate are? And that's even after the most recent Rocky Mountain Power increase. And that's before the increase that we're talking about tonight. And then why is Bountiful Light and Power's flat rate customer charge, the customer fee that we pay, 24% higher than Rocky Mountain Power's? And why is Rocky Mountain Power able to offer energy saving rebates and incentives that benefit their customers, but Bountiful Power and Light doesn't offer these same rebates? Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. We will move to, again, over to Galen for the third and last item.
Mayor Pro Tem,
Yeah,
may I ask a question?
of course.
Okay. On our staff report, page 46, the recommendation is that there be a continuation or continuance of this public hearing to the June 24th meeting. Can we get some clarification just on recommendation number 3?
Yes, and that's referring to the one that we're about to start. And so what we're doing tonight is providing a public hearing on the overall budget with a focus, if you will, on the rate increases for the water department and power department. We are doing that tonight because of the fact that when we had sent out the transfer hearing notices that we just covered, there was an indication in a second page of the water rate and power rates, and that they would be discussed tonight. And we are doing that tonight. And then since it's part of the regular budget, we are going to be handling all that on the 24th, since the mayor will be back in town. So we split it so we could cover for the needs of the council, as well as covering it tonight where it was advertised that it might be addressed as well tonight. I don't know if that answers it or not.
Normally, we would have done all of the public hearings and had the council take action tonight, and we noticed it that way to residents. But then we realized that the mayor was going to be out of town at the power conference and Councilman Higginson wouldn't be here. So we decided at the mayor's request, because she wanted to be here, to have budget adoption take place on the 24th instead of tonight. So this will give people who maybe missed the opportunity to talk tonight to be able to come on the 24th and provide input on the budget the night it's adopted.
Okay, that clarifies. So there will be public comment, public hearing, both tonight and the 24th.
Correct.
Thank you.
Okay. Mayor Pro Tem, did you want me to proceed?
Please proceed.
Very good. This is just kind of a very lengthy slide, but it overviews the budget process timetable that we've gone through to this point. This will look very familiar to all of you, where you've participated from the very beginning. There is a January to March period that covers the development part of the budget, and where we have the departments submit their request for their budget needs. And then myself, our city manager, and our HR director meet to consider those with those requests with the departments. And then we get the balanced budget ready so that in your council committees you can review those budgets, which took place in April. And then we have, as you know, a tentative adoption of the budget, which is required by law, the first regular meeting in May, which took place on the 13th. And then that tentative budget will be open for public inspection from that date until the second budget date, which is June 24th this year. The meetings we're holding tonight, June 10th, are to cover the amended transfer, which we've just discussed for the current fiscal year we're in, and then the proposed transfer for fiscal year 26. And then also, as we've indicated, to cover an overview of the budget and our our water and power rate increases, and an opportunity for the public to comment on all three of those occasions. And then there are other things that take place from this point forward, which is essentially publishing the budget, adopting some ordinances which will formalize the adoption of the budget so it can begin in July 1st. And then it goes for a year from that point. So that was just kind of an overview there. Looking at the budget in summary form, these two graphs show where the source of funds are coming from and where they're going. And so you would think that most everything is taxes, but a lot of it is user fees that comes from, because our enterprise fund operations are a big part of our budget. And then there are the components of where it goes, which is personnel services and also operations and maintenance, and along with some capital. And that varies year to year because we are primarily a pay-as-you-go city, where we don't bond very often. When we do, it's thoughtfully undertaken, and it's not often undertaken. This is a kind of a snapshot or an overview of the budget for the fiscal year 26 year that's being proposed. This budget, like all of our other budgets, are balanced with regard to revenues and expenses, and it is in alignment with the council policy priorities, which are restated and in the document that will be adopted, as well as it has been updated in our most recent council retreat with you. There is no property tax increase proposed. Those are the summary figures there for property tax for both general operations and debt service. And then there are some fee increases that are outlined there that I won't go over in detail, but you're welcome to peruse those. And then the budget includes a 5% cost of living adjustment for all employees. And in most cases, a department will have also merit increases for those that are eligible, and a few departments where there are market adjustments from market studies that have been done. And the final budget will have a 6.5% increase in health insurance rates. There is one new position proposed in the budget, and that is in the golf department. Now, just looking briefly at each of the departments or the funds that are represented in the budget, the general fund is compared there for fiscal year 26 versus the current year we will be closing in June of this year, and the capital fund and the debt service fund. So I'll just let you take a look at those for a second, and then I'll just pass through just to give, for those that are in the audience as well, a chance to take a look and see how the comparisons are. Going into our enterprise fund departments at this point. And then our internal service funds. These funds provide services to the other departments for the things that are mentioned there, computers and insurance-related items. Now, at this point, I will have the water department, I think Craig Christensen will be coming forward, and we'll go through a few slides related to the water department increase. And then following that, Luke Viegel and Tyrone Hansen will come up for the power fund. So, and Craig, you can just tell me when to advance the slide.
All right. Well, thanks for this opportunity to come talk about the rate increase. All right, so let's just look at the department at a glance really fast. We've got 11,139 service connections. That's residential and commercial. 260 pressure reducing valves. That's the PRVs that help reduce the pressures that's coming down the the gravity feed system. We've got 180 miles worth of mainline pipe. That's distribution and transmission lines. That's to and from booster stations to reservoirs and to feed the homes in the city. 15 reservoirs, 14 booster stations, 9 wells, and the 1 treatment plant. So we get about $6.5 million in our annual revenues from metered water cells. And this is kind of where we're talking about some of these increase. $1.5 million is what we try to do every year for our 3 miles of mainline pipe replacement. Bountiful's an old system. We're trying to get these main lines replaced with new pipe that helps improve the system for everybody. Next slide. So some of these capital projects that we have on the horizon here for the next 10 years, that's part of this rate increase is to help get some money in there so we can do some of these bigger projects. We have a couple different reservoirs in the system that have been there for 90 years, 100 years. And these were open top reservoirs when they were first built in the 60s. That's when they put the lids on them. They've been through a lot. They've been repaired so many times that it's just time to start looking into what it's going to take to replace these. And in particular, Mill Creek Reservoir is kind of a good hub for the system. It takes the well water that we have from down here, kind of in the Plat A flat areas, pumps up to that reservoir. That reservoir can throw it down to the south end. That could go all the way up into Summerwood. It can go up into Holbrook, and Holbrook can go up to Templeview, which feeds Stone Ridge in those areas. So it's kind of an essential hub. Barton Creek is also the same. We can pump to Barton Creek. It can go all over. So it's an essential hub that we've got to keep online while doing these proposed projects. Next slide. So this is kind of an aerial view of what the Mill Creek project is kind of proposed to look like. We've got the square underneath is the actual reservoir now. It's a 3.5 million gallon. The proposed is to build a 1.5 million gallon off to the side, and that's so we could continue to have water and service these systems. And once that one's in place, we'll utilize the existing booster, remove the old reservoir and build a new reservoir there. So we'll have 2 1.5 million gallon reservoirs, which also works out because if we need a clean one, we can still keep it online and we can alternate them. So that's kind of what we have proposed there. Next slide, please. So this is kind of just a look of the inside of Mill Creek Reservoir. As you can see in the upper left-hand corner there, cracks developing. We've got concrete spalling that's starting to expose the rebar that's in this concrete. We've got leaks. When we fill up the reservoir to certain levels to those cracks, we get seepage into the ground, so we're getting some water loss. And we're getting some root infiltration in there that we've got to get cleaned out. So next slide. So this is kind of just, Barton Creek is a little bit out on our capital planning, but this is just kind of a look on the inside. It's built just the same as Mill Creek, just a couple pictures there. We're getting the spalling and got old repairs in there that are also leaking. Next slide. And then another part of this is the mainline replacement. So we try to replace that 3.5 miles of pipe a year. And how we go about figuring out what places we want to replace this pipe we got excessive leak history. So you can see that mainline break that we had up there, that's Old Faithful and out of there. That's ductile iron pipe. It's actually not as old as some of the cast iron that we have in the city, but the ground, the soil that we have here adheres to the pipe, and when it wants to give free. That's kind of what happens. That's kind of the pipe in the middle. That's actually some pipe that I put in the ground 16 years ago, and that's what it's doing. So we're trying to make sure to get the better quality pipes with that C900 put in there. So we also look at water qualities. If the street's a dead end, we need to make sure to flush those, because these older pipes can get those dirty water calls and issues that way. We got to do things to meet the regulatory requirements from the EPA and the state, Davis County. One in particular is the lead and copper rule that has come down. That's made us change the way that we approach problems. If we had a service leak, we would just go in there and make a repair on that leak. Now we actually have to go in and pull the whole entire service line to replace it all to stay on par with the lead and copper rule issues there. Part of it also is coordination with other departments. We have a meeting every February that we talk about the projects that street department's gonna do. If they're gonna, like Second East project over here, if they're saying they're gonna recon it, we wanna jump in there and get our line replaced so we don't have our old line underneath a nice new road. So, so these are some of the things that we look at for that rate increase to help us fund these projects and continue to move forward in our capital planning and replacements of the city's infrastructure. Has anybody got any questions?
Any questions?
Craig, when we had our budget subcommittee meeting, I always learn new things, and I appreciate that you take the time to take some of these engineering things and help me understand them. But I was really impressed to learn about our PRVs, and it might be interesting just to give a little bit more information about how many we have and how unique that makes our system, and how those are used to move water up and down our hills.
Yeah. So we have our wells, we have our booster stations, and so everything we have gets boosted up to a reservoir. It in turn goes into a booster station that takes it up to the next reservoir, and then that's where it's going to gravity feed down. So it comes out of the tank, it's going to go into the distribution pipe, and at certain elevations, when we get certain pressures, because as it comes down the hill, it's going to gain pressure, the water. And so we have these pressure stations that have a primary PRV that's the size and diameter of the pipe, if it's a 6-inch or an 8-inch, and then there's a bypass on them. So if you have to work on the one, you've got the bypass that you can still feed everybody off of. But an example would be, water's dropping down and it could get down to, up to like 120 pounds PSI. That valve is going to restrict that water, and it'll come out of that at whatever we end up setting it at. So it could be 65 or 75. It's kind of different in different parts of the city. On the upper benches where they're using the culinary water for outside, we try to keep it up a little bit higher, but not too high, because that's what they're using for their sprinklers. And so sometimes if it's low, it doesn't allow the sprinkler heads to pop up. So we got to keep that a little bit higher, but the majority of it is 65. From there, it'll go down to the next box that has been engineered at the certain elevations throughout the city. And so with Bountiful being where we are, we have 260 of these valves that we maintain. And so in comparison to other cities, it's a lot. And I know some cities have like 3 or 4 boxes and so they've got 12 PRVs in their system. We've got a lot more, and when we do our sanitary surveys, that's what they always tell us, Division of Drinking Water in the Davis County, that we've got the most out of everybody around. So,
Thank you. I find it, fascinating the way your crew has figured out how to ensure we move water uphill and downhill, and so that it comes out at the right pressure for, a comfortable shower. It doesn't take your skin off, but it's just really amazing. And so I appreciate how you help us understand these technical pieces as we move through how they then relate to the budget. So thank you.
Yep, thank you.
Sorry, I've got a quick question.
Yes.
I really appreciate the presentation and seeing these serious infrastructure needs that we have, and that we're planning for that. We have 10-year plan. And I'm just wondering, do you know with the rate increase how we're going to maybe compare to other cities with who might also have this kind of more mature infrastructure and similar types of issues?
Yeah. You want to take a second, Lloyd?
Maybe, are you asking about rates themselves or the
Yeah,
replacement programs?
Yeah, rates.
So,
And are other cities probably also facing this, I guess?
other cities are proposing maybe not as significant rate increases this year, but we're all faced with the same economic conditions of, price increases and labor and materials. Traditionally, Bountiful has been on the lower end of water rates. With changes to our structure, we're going to be now towards the middle of the pack, and maybe in some instances, a little bit towards the upper middle of the pack. We are not anywhere near the highest in rates. And I think one of the reasons why our rates are low is that we have a unique 5-tier structure for the increasing rate block. So, if you use more, you pay more, but there are most people use in the lower tiers, so their costs are less than those who use a significant amount of water. But in looking at cities in Davis County, we're basically middle of the pack for rates.
Thanks. I appreciate that additional context because a lot of us in Davis County do live on hillsides, have hillside cities. I did just want to say I appreciated going through the budget again today, looking specifically at water and power and these enterprise funds, and just seeing the significant increases for supplies and materials are, and then I appreciate the work and the information provided in the budget on that. And these long-term plans, nobody loves having a rate increase, but I feel like your information and presentation has been really helpful in showing why this is justified and needed to preserve our water system here in Bountiful. So thank you for your work, and thanks for that context, Lloyd.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Now turn it over to
The
the
Power
Group.
Department will be next, so.
Thank you. So that first picture, it was a picture of our Titan engine at our power plant. It's one of 3 natural gas burning turbines that deliver some of our power. Go ahead, Galen, next slide. So for fiscal year 2026, we're proposing a balanced budget of $43.9 million. The increases effective July 1st are an overall 3% rate increase and a 10% increase to our fees. We're also proposing increasing our pole attachment fees from $14 to $15. Next slide. Our Power Department's major roles and critical functions are first and foremost to ensure the safety of everyone that interacts with our electrical systems, to buy and generate electricity at economical prices, and to deliver long-term reliable power to our customers. Next slide. We're really proud of our safety record. Over 7 years, we have had no lost time accidents. That equates to over 2,555 days. Each year, we work 70-plus hours. We've received awards from IPSA and APPA for our safety record. Just an overview of our department. We have 6 substations, 42 miles of 46 kV transmission lines, 90 miles of 15 kV overhead distribution lines, 135 miles of 15 kV underground distribution lines, and 75 miles of streetlight circuits. Since the pandemic, our costs and delivery time for materials have increased substantially. You can see from the slide the differing lead times for the major components on our system. Because of these longer lead times, manufacturers are not honoring the prices they originally gave us. The price for wire has increased 60% plus. Our rubber goods terminations and connections, while we can get them, those prices have increased a lot. Another thing to think about is the effect tariffs will have, most likely increasing our costs of supplies. Our fiscal year priorities are to upgrade feeders 273, 571, 573, and 576. To begin replacement and upgrade of our hydro control systems, to rebuild the Northwest substation, and to acquire power resources to stabilize the cost of power and increase our green and carbon-free resources.
Can I ask a question? Could you describe where the feeder numbers are in the city?
Luke would be able to do that a little better than me.
So the first number on those is, it's a number 2 sub, number 5 sub, number 5 sub, and number 5 sub. The number 5 sub is at 1800 South, just west of Renaissance. And then the number 2 sub is the second substation behind Viewmont High School. So those are the breaker numbers coming out of those subs. So if we're going to be rebuilding or doing some work, that's what those numbers go with. Does that answer your question?
Yes. It sometimes helps to be able to just place them on a map where we're working
Yes.
on these in the city.
Next slide. Oh.
So outages don't happen at the most convenient times. This video here that was playing, it just paused, is during a snowstorm. During a snowstorm on a Sunday afternoon, it was a really wet, heavy snow. And that picture right there to the right of the time lapse is the actual pole. What happened is there was a cracked insulator that tracked, caused a fire, and it just shows the crews putting the pole back in. I really wish it was that quick, but it's not. There's a lot of work. That is our backyard machine. That machine can actually drill the hole for us. It can drag the pole into the backyard, and you all just witnessed how that was set in place. So outage restoration, last year we had 168 outages. That's up from the previous years. We started recording it a little bit better since 2017. As Councilmember Price Hewish mentioned, it was the squirrels. And there was a little bit in there of utopia, but for some reason those squirrels just wreaked havoc on our system. With that percentage, we still have a 0.999% average reliability for the past 5 years. So we're still doing really well. This picture here shows down on 5th West when a UDOT plow hit one of our poles and what equipment it took to get that back into place. So next one. Here's some examples of some bad poles. The picture on the left, you can actually see the decay in it. It's rotting from the inside out, and you can just see the big crack. The picture on the right, on the other hand, has that shell around it with the interior just decaying. So we call it the candy shell. So when you walk up to a pole, sometimes you can't tell if it's rejected or a bad pole like that without, you'll hit it with a hammer, and if it sounds hollow, you can test it that way. Next slide, Galen. This is a Jess. sticking a screwdriver into the bottom of the pole to show you how much decay that pole had. So there's no structural integrity on the inside. The outside is the only thing that was holding that pole up. Next slide, please, Galen. So for the past 25 years, we've changed about 2,370 poles. On our system, we have 4,930. We replace about 127 poles a year on average. Last year, we slowed down a bit. This was due to the uptick in outages, as well as staff. We've got a lot of new guys. We have 6 apprentices and only 5 journeymen. So when you have newer people, it's a little bit more difficult to get poles put in the ground. But with the training, we're hoping to get that number increased. Next slide, Galen. This is an example of replacing poles. Those poles that pole that we showed you that was rotten, typically when we have a test on a pole, we'll have one of that whole row failed, and then the other ones were probably the same year but still didn't fail a pole test. That picture on the right, you can see the height difference of the old poles compared to the new poles. That old pole is probably a 35-foot pole, and the new pole is a 45-foot pole. This is for safety clearances for our guys. Gets it so our guys can get in and have a working area, a safe working area to work on. With that, if we replace one pole at a time that was bad, you can imagine that wire doesn't stretch. So we have to do big sections at a time. So on the right and on the left, you can see that we've got several of our guys up on the poles changing those out. You can go to the next one, Galen. This picture right here, we're just replacing a cross arm, just shows some of the equipment that it takes to do this work. We've got 2 bucket trucks and our digger derrick in there, with the third digger derrick or the second digger derrick not being used at the time. But this was a planned thing. This was not in an outage situation. So back to talking about the poles. 5 years ago, we had Osmos came through. They did some pole tests for us. They found 265 rejected poles. Of those 265, we replaced 127. So we're still continuing with that process. At the rate that we're currently going, it would take us about 20 years to finish the rest of those poles. Like I said, we don't do single poles at a time because a lot of times they're in the middle of a section that we just need to do the whole section anyway. Most of these poles are 50 years or older that we're replacing as well. And talk about the underground maintenance now. We have about 1.2 million feet of cable installed underground. 237,000 feet of that is bear concentric. The bear concentric was installed in between 1970 and 1986 in conduit with a life expectancy of about 20 years. So that wire is definitely older than I am. The new jacketed cable, however, has a warranty of 40 years with a life expectancy longer than that. That's just the warranty for 40 years. We expect it to last much longer than that. And on average, we're replacing about 18,000 feet of that a year. So, one more thing to mention, at the current rate of what we're doing, it would take us 30 plus years to change all that out. So this is a picture to explain what bear concentric and jacketed cable is. This wire with the red stripe down the side circled in red, that's jacketed. That outside neutral is jacketed and protected. On the right is the old bear concentric stuff. You can go on to the next slide, Galen. This is a more close-up picture. So the top wire there is what bear concentric should look like, and that middle piece there is what it looks like after 20 plus years of being in the conduit, and then the bottom is our new standard. That jacket just covers up that neutral so it doesn't get exposed. So 65% of the installed unjacketed, or 65% of that, or excuse me, 25% of that has been changed. We still have to do the rest of that 65%. And then,
Could you take just a minute and explain what happens when we try to pull unjacketed bear concentric cable out of a conduit?
yeah. So when we try to pull that out, cross our fingers, sometimes it just comes right out, no problem. Other times it would be similar to if you ever try to take your sock off and you grab the top of your sock and you push it down your foot, it just bunches up. So if you imagine pulling a wire through and the conduit might be full of mud, it just peels that bare concentric off, and then it ends up jamming to the point of snapping. And if it snaps, we have to find out where it broke, dig down, find the conduit, break the conduit open, fish it out. I mean, it takes a lot of time. Thank goodness a lot of our system's looped, but some sections are not. Some sections of the stuff is in backyards. So, yeah, that's what that bare constrictor, it's just like a sleeve that just peels off and disintegrates. We've pulled some stuff out that looked like it was installed yesterday, which has been, we never know what's going to happen. So a lot of times when we're pulling this out, if we plan for the worst, we have blue stakes called in case we have to dig. We're ready to go, but yeah, that's what happens when you try to pull it out and the conduit's not 100% clean. Tree trimming, Bountiful City, we have one in-house contract, or one in-house crew and 2 contract crews. Over the past 5 years, we average about 4,476 trees trimmed a year. In this picture, might be hard to tell, but on the one pole, you can see our lineman, then through the little hole of the tree, you can see another lineman on another pole in the background there. That hole was actually burned by the wire. The wire swinging in the wind and the trees blowing in the wind, it would just burn a hole right through that tree. We don't have anything like that on our system anymore these days. So tree trimming has made a huge difference on our outages, huge difference. And I'll turn the time back over to Tyrone. Does anyone have any questions for me before I sit down? Thank you.
So we get asked quite a bit, excuse me, how our rates compare with Rocky Mountain Power rates. And it's not an apple to apple comparison. So Rocky Mountain Power rates, they have base rates, and then they have these additional schedules, and they have 5 or 6 additional schedules which tack on to the base rates. So the biggest schedule is their power cost adjustment, which is close to 19-20%. So it's an additional 19-20% on top of their base rates. So what I do is I take all their schedules and figure out what their equivalent power rates are to ours. And you can see during the winter, Bountiful Power, so this is after our 3%, proposed 3% rate increase. And this also includes their recent 4.7. Rocky Mountain Power came out with a 4.7 rate increase. So this is taking the latest information as a comparison. So you can see in the winter months, we're a little bit below them. In the summer months, we're quite a bit below them. But essentially, with the 3% rate increase, the average Bountiful City customer would pay about 2.6 less annually than if they were on Rocky Mountain Power. So I take my parents' Rocky Mountain bill just to make sure that I'm doing the right math and plugging it in just to make sure that it comes out how I think it is. So I feel pretty good about these numbers here. Next slide. So capital projects, we've budgeted over $5 million for the Northwest Substation rebuild. It's got a few issues. It's got a low bus, which is a safety hazard, outdated breakers, can't get parts.
Would you mind just explaining really quick what the bus is and why a low bus is a problem as opposed to a short bus, for example?
Yeah, I think the bus is pretty much the stuff that comes overhead, all those lines. It's just a lot lower than what a safe substation would be. In comparison, so overall, the capital spend on this substation will be over $6 million. In comparison, we did one about 8 years ago, the Southwest substation. It was about twice as big as this one, and it cost a couple $1 million less. So you can see how much the prices have gone up. Next slide. We've also budgeted over $1 million for Echo and Pineview upgrades, primarily to replace the programmable controllers, the human-machine interface, and a flow meter at Pineview. Next slide. We've budgeted over $1 million. This is for the feeder upgrades that Luke talked about. So the feeders are essentially the backbone of the distribution system. Next slide. Our 10-year capital plan is over $45 million. Some of the items included are the Northwest substation, which we mentioned, the Northeast substation, plus any new feeders, our transmission system rebuilds and reconductoring, distribution system upgrades, an AMI metering upgrade, streetlight system upgrades, replacing the #1 turbine over at the power plant, the control systems for our hydros, which we spoke about, and our ongoing vehicle equipment replacement program. And this $45 million is estimated in today's dollars, so it doesn't really take into account inflation. Next slide. Okay, that's all I have. Any questions?
Any questions from the council? Thank you, by the way.
I have a question that you probably don't know the answer to offhand, but I'm thinking about the squirrels. How much money are they costing us? I mean, in a power outage, we have, what, 40 more power outages last year over the previous year, and it was mostly caused by squirrels?
It's been a lot. I don't have the exact dollar amount, but a lot of them have happened after hours, and so you're gonna have to pay a crew or, a couple guys overtime, time and a half for those outages. I think a lot of times it's just a fuse replacement, which isn't super severe. I mean, we can usually get our customers back into within an hour, but yeah, I don't have like a total dollar amount, but it has increased significantly.
I assume it's the invasive species of fox squirrel that has moved in. Anyway, you gave us so much wonderful information, and that is a tiny little bit of it, but I appreciate all that you do to maintain our infrastructure. I know that it's challenging at this time when all of the materials have gone up so much in cost. So thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you very much. Okay, so we will now open the last of the public hearing in this meeting for anyone who would like to speak to the proposed budget for fiscal year 2025-26 and the proposed water and power rate increases. You may now come forward to the microphone. Please state your name and where you live. Okay. With no comment.
Sorry, I just slipped right back into that, Mayor Pro Tem.
Yeah, so, the reminder that this public hearing will continue to the next meeting.
Sorry, so we just need a motion to continue the public hearing until June 24th.
Varsity Manager, would you like these as individual motions on reopening?
No,
Okay.
it's not necessary.
So I'll take a motion.
In that case, I would make a motion that we continue our public hearing for the city council on the budget issues to June 24th. The reopening of the fiscal year for the 24-25 budget adjustment, that we include a hearing on the compensation increases for employees, including executive municipal officers, and that we consider the final adoption of the fiscal year 25-26 budget with taxes, rates, and fees.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So I did have one question. For the questions that were mentioned during public hearing, who should they look for answers coming from?
Yep, they can talk to Galen or me if they'd like more information.
Okay. Thank you very much. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you.